Here we are. We back again with another breakdown, another chart breakdown for the week, man. Um, let's get right into it. So on US 30, right? We're gonna start at the daily. We see price previously was in a downtrend that was making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, higher low point, being that this was higher than this low. And then now it's at a higher high point, right? But the market looks like it has no time to slow down, right? So it's going to continue pushing, possibly, right? We do have a gap in the market right here where we can anticipate where price can make a higher high point, create a resistance, pull back to fill this gap, right? So we're waiting for price to create a resistance, pull back to fill this gap, to also creating another higher low point to then continue with the trend, right? And we can, how we can take advantage of this is if price want to continue giving us higher highs and higher lows, as like we're seeing right now in the H4, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low point, and now it's still at the same high, right? If we want to take advantage of this, you want to see price create a higher high point, create a higher low point, and then you want to look for entries along the way to ride that same wave up until another higher high point, right? So as we can see, right, that price made a high low point right here in the H4, right? We want to go down to M30, maybe M15, so we can see structure along this way, right? So we want to see here, right? This was the high low point on H4. I mean, yeah, this was the high low point on H4. We see price created a resistance here. Sorry about that. Random line. So we want to see price created a resistance here. First, price created a support, right? It then consolidated. It came down and made another support, right? This support might be more valid being that it can be shown on the H4 time frame, right? So yes. So once we've seen a support created here on the H4 time frame, then you want to go down to M30, M15, maybe even M5, right? Where we can see here, right? On M15, we want to eliminate all the noise on M5. So we see that price was consolidated here, right? After it created that support, it created a resistance to consolidate it, right? Then you want to see, then you see price break out of this consolidation zone, right? Where let's see how this looks. So it looks choppy and ugly and disgusting. The only way you would be able to take advantage of this is wait for the break of this consolidation zone, right? Where a break is bullish, where we see here, where we see a variation right here, bullish candle after price consolidated right here for a tad bit, price consolidated, and then you got a strong bullish candle leading to the upside, right? So the only way you would have took advantage of that is if you was on the charts. This was 10:45 a.m. After that close, you would have took position here. And then I like to risk 100 points, right? Oh, no, this is wrong. This is 10 points. Why is it showing 10 points? Okay, so we would have took this, right? And then we would have risked 100 points and you'd have been out of that fluctuation zone, right? And then of course you want to aim for a high for 1 to 3 risk to reward, right? Where price, if we look to the left, right, we have exhaustion zones here, where that could have been your TP1, right? Where it's like you don't want to risk price reversing at that area. So you could have took your take profit at this area, right? Giving you a 1 to 2.6, right? The market is sloppy on US 30. All the indices right now, it's kind of choppy because Trump is talking, a lot of stuff is going on, and that's how you'd have been able to take advantage of that, right? So I'm gonna delete that. If you look, price then came, right, to use this. Wait, that's not okay. Yeah, price then came to use this resistance exhaustion zone as support right here, right? And as you can see, price then is pulling back because after it made a higher high, so it made a high high, then a high low point, high high, right? So now price is retesting these MAs and kind of sort of trying to create a support level to then create a higher low point, right? So You can even slap on your fib at this moment, right? Point A to point B, and price is currently at a 50%, right? So you want to see for this upcoming week, price to create a support level on M15, M30, right? So you need a bearish candle, then you need a bullish candle to establish support, right? Once you establish support, you can then go on the M5 time frame and just look for a structure, right? Where you just want to see bullish structure. Bullish structure is high highs, high lows, high highs, high lows, so on, right? So you want to kind of look to get in at the high low point on the M15, on the M5, sorry, and aim for that other high, right? Where we established that a higher high point would be on the M30, and we can aim for negative 27%. Negative 27% is always TP1, right? Let me go back down to make sure that our risk will be 100 points. But the risk can be 100 points, case by case scenario, right? But let's just say for the sake of this argument, where risk will be 100 points, right? And once you aim to target negative 27%, that's a 1 to 3, right? So you can easily maybe pass the funded challenge, or maybe even add to that balance or recoup any losses that you may have occurred from last week. So that's my outlook on US30 at the moment, right? Let's move on to the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ on a daily time frame previously did also kind of broke out of that downtrend structure from lower low to lower high to lower low to lower high to then creating a higher low. And now it's at a high high, breaking all these previous high points, right? So what we could be looking for is to price to create some sort of resistance level, right? To then pull back, close fill in this gap, maybe even fill in this gap, this will be a steep retrace, but we never know what the market could do. The market could do anything it wants to do, right? Where it can fill these two gaps, create a high low point, even sweeping this liquidity level that we have right here. Also with the supply zone of this was the last engulfing candle to push price up and break these previous highs, right? Create a high low point and then push up, right? So like I said with the last one, the way we can take advantage of this is no real structure here on the H4. Let's see how the H1 looks. See some kind of structure here, right? Where you can mark off a support here, you can mark off a resistance here, and price is really just, I think, consolidating really because yeah, this is just consolidation. If you want to just mark off the low of this one, so price is just indecision right now. So you have two scenarios where you can wait for price to break out of here, being to see if it wants to continue to push. Because if it breaks out, bullish to bullish, of course, will be the candle. Bullish to bullish, bullish to bullish variation. All right. Two bullish candles to support, to really establish a break of a support. I mean, break of a resistance, and bearish to establish a break of support, right? And you can, I guess, 100 points and look to target a 1 to 3, where we can look to the left to see what is going on here, where we have a lot to the left, right? Where, let's see, this is just a lot of choppiness, but let's see the support level right here. And so the median around here was the support level that came up, made resistance. So price already broke past that, where we have exhaustion right here and a doji. So you can see this is like a little consolidation here. So this is maybe why we're seeing indecision at this area. And so maybe price may be exhausted. It may not be trying to push up more. It may try to create resistance to then pull back, to then look to create that high low point, right? Where we could look on M30. And if we get a break of this support right here, we get a break of this support right here, we could then look for price to low low, lower high, lower low, and we can be looking to getting taking a sell, taking advantage of the sells and aiming for a lower low point, right? Where it can be anywhere, right? But we will have to wait to see price break support to then establish a to establish a support lower, to establish the lower low, pull back to establish a lower high, and then we can look for entries to target the lower low, right? And that's the outlook for the NASDAQ at the moment. Let's move on to gold, right? So we had gold, looked like it was holding this level from last week. It did not hold, right? So we could see that price really broke. We was anticipating price to come up to fill this gap to then no, we was waiting for price to come up and just continue up, right? Being that we had a break of structure here on the H4 time frame, that did not play out. Price is doing whatever it wants to do. It then formed a gap here on the H4 time frame, right? So now we're lower low. This is consolidation, another lower low. This is a lower high. But now price is establishing high low point, right? Where this upcoming week we could potentially be looking for buys, right? So we can probably even slap on a fib. No, no fibs right now. So we can go down to the M30 time frame, right? Where we see price did break this resistance here. Slap on a fib because price is changing trends, it's changing direction. 61.8 is the pullback, negative 27% is TP1, where we can see price to potentially go to negative 61.8 and also fill that gap and also continue that trend to the upside, right? So gold is looking like a good move for the upcoming week. So in order to take advantage of this, you want to get down to a smaller time frame, like the M5, and see structure, right? Where M5 you can see price is making high highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and it's at a higher high, right? We can wait for a pullback for a high low point to then enter. With gold stop loss, you just want to aim for the lowest low, for the next low. So you won't, so price could fluctuate, right? So where price may fluctuate, right? And as long as it doesn't break this low point right here, then the structure is still bullish, right? But if it does break this low point right here, that means the whole trend is done and we can want to get out of that trade. So if we want, right, where we can look for entries here, all right, and then we can still target the higher high point, right? But the higher high point on M30 will be negative 27%. Or you can even target these same highs, being that you have resistance right here. We have a resistance level right here. Also, you have resistance this was a strong zone where it had support, then it came up to resist, then it broke over it, consolidated in the zone, and broke it again, used it for some sort of resistance, you can say. All right. So I could get rid of this one and use this one. All right. And now we can see, we can take our TP1 at this resistance zone because we don't know if price wants to just come back, right, to use this as another resistance to create a lower high point to then continue to the downtrend, right? Being that we are underneath the MAs on the H4 time frame, we are underneath the MAs. So if price is underneath the MAs, we want to be looking for sales, right? So for a short-term trade, we can look for buys, right? Just up until this support, up until this resistance level, or even this resistance zone that we have here, right? And that can be the analysis for gold. Let's move on to UJ. All right, let's see what's going on with UJ. Let's get back to the daily. And let's see. UJ has been bullish. at the moment, right? We had UJ making a lower low, right? UJ made a lower low. So we pointed out fib from point A to point B. And UJ has been correcting itself, right? A correction is higher highs and higher lows on a downtrend, right? So we had higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low point, right? Um, from last week, we did say we was looking for a higher low point to then get in, but I was on a different chart and price gapped. So I didn't even get to take advantage of the fact that of this higher low point, right? I was looking for a structure to break through here. On this chart, I was looking for structure to break the resistance here to then take a buy. But by time Sunday 6:30, it just gapped, and then by 3 a.m. London session, it just shot up. So I definitely missed that trade. But hey, let's get back to the analyze. So hey, let's get back to it, right? So um price is currently at is correcting itself and it's making a high low point, right? So we can get rid of this fib. So price did hit TP1 and TP2, right? Sweeping that liquidity on a daily time frame, right? And also creating a resistance on that daily time frame after that liquidity sweep, right? So we can definitely take off this fib, right? And we can take off this this pathway tool, right? So now we can plot on a new fib, point A to point B, and price is currently sitting at a 50% level. So we know we have a zone here on the left, right? So we have a zone here that can be resistance. I mean, that can be support, or it can be a consolidation zone, right? So we can make this one yellow. So we can make this yellow. And this is the H4 time frame, right? So we could go down to the M30, right? And we can see that price, let's see. So we've seen price made a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. You can probably say this is a lower high. We just have to see what price is going to do this upcoming week. But we can say this is a lower high, and this is the same low, testing the same low to then breaking out and creating a higher high after it's breaking this low, right? So we have to see if price is going to establish a support here, creating a higher low point to then push price higher, and we can continue to trend on the H4, right? So we can mark this off, resistance here, which was this was a consolidation, but it was still a resistance. That price then used the same resistance to create a support to push the price higher, right? So we can also do this where you can do point A to point B on the M30 fib, and price is currently sitting at 61.8% on the M30 time frame, right? So we can, so when market open at 6 p.m. on Sunday, and we can, which is today, we can see if price is gonna establish a support on the M30. So we got a bearish candle right here. We're looking for a bullish candle, or even if price wants to pull down lower, right? As long as it doesn't break this support level right here, these two candles right here, I'm gonna mark off for support. As long as price doesn't break past here with a bearish candle, we can continue. We can see price continue. We can see price make a support with a bullish candle to then push price higher, right? So we already had a high low point, right? So price could push all the way down here as long as it doesn't break this low. And we can see price aim for a negative 27% on the M32 fib. And we can actually scale in, right? So if price give us more entries on higher low points, we can scale in until we get to a H4, right? We want to get to a H4 higher high point, right? So we want to get to a H4 and uh we want to break this high to see if price want to continue bullish, right? But for the sake of being safe, right? we can target these regular highs, right? So this can be TP1 right here. We can aim for right here. The price could be TP1, right? Just to be safe, because we are on a downtrend, right? So we don't know if price wants to create a support here, a high low point to push price higher to create a double top, or to even create some kind of higher low point here to then test this to then break of a support, which will break this to then create a higher low point, a low high to then continue bearish, because the main trend is bearish on the daily, right? So we just gotta wait to see what price really wants to do, and we can engage it with that, right? So we'll stay on the H4 time frame, and we'll see how we want price to. Matter of fact, we'll stay on the M30 time frame to see what price wants to do, how price wants to play it out. All right. Moving on to AU. So we had a gap on AU, right? So we had a breaker structure on the H4 time frame, right? After we had this pullback. So price right now is sitting at a high low point. So we have point A to point B, all right, and fill this gap that we do have a gap somewhere. Okay, we had a gap here that was filled, but price usually like to play around in these gaps because this is a significant price point, right? So we just don't know exactly what price wants to do yet. So we want to sit and wait, right? Where price created a support right here. It also came back down and tested this support level, but it did not break. Where we have a bearish candle, then we have bullish, bullish, bullish candle tested, right? So we have price testing that higher low point support level, which is a valid double bottom, meaning that we're in an uptrend. And we just want to see what price wants to do, right? So it looks like price may be creating some kind of resistance right here, where we want to see a break of that resistance, right? So how we can take advantage of this trade right here is if we see price break here, create a high low point to establish bullish trend, we can enter on this high low point, and we can take advantage of this trade right here, right? Where we can um, take a buy, stops below the low, and we want to target H4 highs, right? Or we can target negative 27%. But being that this is a significant zone, we can just target these same highs, meaning that we're in this zone right here, right? So price is going to be shaky around this zone. So we would just want to just keep an eye on it and see what's going to go on, right? And that is our breakdown, right? So I'm going to keep my chart on M30, and I'm going to have it here because when market open, I do want to see what price is going to do around this zone and what price wants to do, right? So I can take advantage of this trade coming up, of this week coming up, and seeing if I can get a high low point to see if price wants to continue to push higher, and I will keep you guys posted. But thanks again for rocking with me on another breakdown. This is Mr. Bush Trades, and we're out.